Great. My name is Lee Caswell. Thank you so much for coming. I'm the Vice President of Storage Products for VMware, and we're just thrilled to have 3 real-life vSAN customers here with us. Thank you so much for coming. Can we get just a quick round of applause for our... most of our customers aren't every day on stage, so it's just terrific to come out and hear real world stories. I have to show the disclaimer because that's what we do, but I think you've seen enough of those. And what I'm going to do, what I thought we'd start with is we'll just do a quick introduction of each of the panel members and describe a little bit about your role, if you would, in your organization. So, David, we'll start with you.
Sure. David Matthews. I'm a lead solution architect in enterprise engineering at Sky. My role is I look after the OTT part of the business, the infrastructure architects for that area. That's OTT propositions from Sky, such as Sky Go, Now TV, and the like, and provide them with both the on-prem as well as some guidance around off-prem architecture.
Right. Very good. Thank you for coming. All right, Martin.
Yeah, my name is Martin Sigurðsson, and I work for a service provider in Iceland that's called Thekking. We are a rather small company, but my role is infrastructure architect, and also I implement the solution and monitor it and run it.
Yeah, you got everything. Yeah,
I have to do everything. I do VMware and storage and backup.
Wow.
So I have a quite number of tasks that I design and implement and then run and making sure my admins can be the users of the solutions.
Very good. Gunnar, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Hello. Thank you for coming. My name is Gunnar Sanchez, and I work for the University of Grenoble in the French Alps. Sorry for my French accent, maybe if you hear it. And I work for a quite big French university, which represents 60,000 users. So I'm a system engineer in the IT team, which we are about 100 people.
Wow, about 100 people, yeah. So we have a real range here, right, don't we? From it's like from small scale to large scale. One of the things that's come up repeatedly in the discussions is people are looking at hyper-converged and vSAN, right? Anything that's different, and particularly around storage, right? Different is usually perceived as bad. So, starting is like different things. How did you come to the conclusion, right, of using vSAN, and what was the seminal moment, right, that said, hey, this is the time to go and try something new?
I think for us, we'd moved towards, we've been investigating converged storage for some time, getting away from fiber channel estates because they're large, they're chunky, they're expensive to run and maintain. And both on the OpenStack and VMware estates, we were looking at converged storage. And for us, the benefits in that space, we had the network fabric to be able to run, the storage over IP.
Sure.
We'd recently modernized that side of the fabric. So in many ways, it just makes sense. It's logical. We, instead of having to invest on this side, we can basically invest a little bit more on this side and can merge our storage and compute blocks.
Yes. Yeah. Was there a particular application that drove your need, or was it more of an infrastructure modernization?
It's funny you say that. So on the first time round, I think our focus really was around commoditization of the storage. So
yes.
Get the expensive bespoke solutions out of the way.
Sure.
But really form that commodity layer of storage.
Yep.
As our journey, it's been a journey, and vSAN has moved on. The focus has now probably moved to the more intensive application services. Obviously, video streaming, for example. It's a pretty obvious part of what Sky does. And also now in the NoSQL database services.
Oh, interesting,
for
right?
Mongo. So there's some really interesting white papers out there from some very clever people at VMware around running those services.
There are. In fact, we had Air France earlier was talking about running MongoDB and
I think,
Hadoop.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the idea for us is that the vSAN hybrid is great, and to be honest, it delivers us that level of storage at a very attractive price point.
Yep.
It's simple. And I think vSAN All Flash for us is not just useful for those really intensive and demanding applications, but it's also essentially, because you're essentially just throwing more IOPS than the moon at a problem, it's almost a no ops sort of model. I have a big bucket of stuff.
So this is kind of interesting, right? And, over half of vSAN customers today are using all flash. And part of the reason seems to be that they're really trying to eliminate the performance tuning aspect of entirely. And so you throw this on and, I can mix workloads, right? And so, have a very a flexible solution that I don't have to plan as much.
That's
around,
exactly
right?
what. Yeah. So I mean, obviously there's elements you're always going to be chasing the bottleneck around eventually. You know, something's going to be, but the idea is at the moment it's quite attractive just to say I don't have to worry so much about that performance metrics on that because I know it's backed by all flash array effectively.
Yeah. Was management part of your thought process in using vSAN?
Yeah, it's really easy to get into and just almost check one box and
just turn on the storage bits.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, if you got your hardware installed right, then you just turn it on.
Right.
But the main reason I installed vSAN in my data center was to create a separate management cluster.
I see.
I have a production environment for a hosting business, and I didn't want to be locked in with my management tools if something would break in the production environment.
Right.
So I had a very old fiber channel installation when I started working in the company, and I phased that out to a FlexPod installation on 10 gig Ethernet. But I was still having the management running on the old fiber.
Right.
So I want to decommission those servers and storage, and instead of buying new fiber channel storage and new fiber channel systems and new hosts, just installing a few hosts with vSAN to run the management services was like a no-brainer in both cost and operation cost. So,
it's interesting that in many cases that's how customers got started with vSphere.
Yeah.
Right? Was thinking of a management cluster, right, as a way to go and basically consolidate, right, and get the reliability, right, and basically, you could pay for it by the consolidation benefits, right?
And that separation of the operational domains we've seen. It's just really great.
And for us as a service provider, the licensing is really nice because we just report the usage each month. So it's not when you buy a storage, you have to pay upfront for the whole system.
Right.
Now we just bought the hardware and we report the usage on the vSAN gigabits per month. So it's just reported.
Yeah, a lot of people I don't think are familiar with how the vCAN network, right, has a credit system that you can go and basically deploy based on just reporting each month, right? So
I basically can deploy every technology VMware has and I just report as it used.
Yes.
So I can easily bring on new technologies without having to forklift my CFO.
Forklift your CFO, exactly.
Because if I had to buy licensing just to test things out,
you'd have a bit of a sense of failure about that.
Exactly. Kind of a pay by the drink model, right? So, it's interesting.
So it's easy for us to adapt, and if it grows, the licensing will grow, and if it goes down in usage, then
you actually, it's basically moves.
It moves along. It's
from a flexible consumption, consumption model. How about for you in University of Grenoble?
Yeah. Well, long story short. Last year there were 3 universities in Grenoble, and University Grenoble Alpes, which is called like this. It's the result of the merging of those 3 universities, and so the things that we had 4 VMware clusters that were pretty old, and we needed to replace them, and so we needed to build something new.
Sure.
A new cluster, a VMware cluster, because all our teams were already skilled on VMware products. So that was the easier choice for us at this time. And it was necessary for us to have a cluster that would be performant, of course, reliable, extra, and multi-site, because we have multiple data centers. And we wanted to be able to have to lose maybe one DC and to keep things up anyway.
Yes.
So that's why we choose vSAN with a stretch cluster.
Right. And so from you said you had 100 people. Did the organization have to change? I had an interesting discussion with a bank the other day, one of the largest banks in the US, and the thing they asked me at the end was, can you give me the org chart of someone who's deployed vSAN so I can start thinking about how do I organize around this, where instead of a storage team that's separate, right, I've got now storage being managed as VM policies effectively.
Well, in our case, the storage team and virtualization team was the same people.
The same people,
already before. So it was kind of easy to work together. we didn't really we had our own clusters before the merging, so we had to reinvent a way of working together, but that was quite easy, and a new project is leading everyone around, so that was good.
And did you choose all flash? Are you using all flash or hybrid?
All flash.
Yeah, all flash. And what was the thought process? And some people think flash is expensive. How did you perceive about flash?
It is more expensive than regular, but anyway, we wanted to make how to say that ambitious choice, going for hyper-converged solution, and so we didn't want to have any problems with performance. So we made the choice to say, okay, let's go with something new. Let's go with all flash, and we won't experience any performance problems.
Yeah. There's one thing about all flash or not all flash. If you put a price on latency, so each millisecond of latency will cost you in business operations, because processes are running slow, and if you put that value into the calculation of why you should do all flash, then you get a business decision on some number that the CTO or the CFO can see.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, right? So if you stop thinking about all flash in $1 per gigabyte raw capacity, right, and start thinking about $1 per for latency, things actually change, right? Don't they?
Very much so, and that's exactly what we've seen. And so, if we can just say I can have broadcast level, whole pipelines streaming across all flash, then yes, the fact that the flash is reassuringly expensive is less of a deal.
I'm going to ask another question for the panel, but in the meantime, just for you to be thinking, we're going to open up the mics. So if you have specific questions you'd like to go and ask, there are 2 mics here that will open up after this next level of questions. And so encourage anyone from the audience to go and ask directly. This is your time really for you. So, if you had to choose between management savings, like cost savings, or just speed, what would you say would be the most important aspect of how vSAN affected your business?
I think management, front and center. For us, I mean, it's probably not so much the case when you first rolled in. It's kind of nice to merge storage and compute. So I can basically I can just go off and buy this, a block whenever I want to expand something. I just buy another block. I just buy another block, and that's great. And obviously merging from an organizational perspective, it's the common joke when you're sort of looking at converged storage is, I can use this to shoot my storage team. Yeah, that's not true. It's not true.
Right.
Rather,
we don't market it that way, by the way.
Exactly. But the idea is that rather than looking down at ticket, allocate LAN, that's taken care of by cloud services side of things.
Right.
And they can look up at this wider storage estate, what's coming down, what overall services do they need to provide at a more strategic level.
Yes.
And then obviously if we're just taking this, if we're making making storage, much like compute, essentially a solved infrastructure problem, then we can put that away and market it I don't need to panic so much about this anymore, and start looking at the bigger picture.
It's interesting what you mentioned. I mean, I've heard this before about stopping looking down at the infrastructure and look up at the business, right? As a way to basically just get more visibility.
Because if you're looking down, that's cost. If you're looking up, that's empowerment, that's value, right?
I like that. That's good. Can I use that? Yeah. I'll give you royalties on that one, How about for you? So if you think about like either management or cost savings or just flexibility, what drove your, what did you realize, do you think?
Yeah, in my case it was the management and also I think if I would have done a traditional storage and fiber systems, it would cost much more.
So
cost was definitely a huge factor in the decision. But then I have another case at the customer side that they have it's a hospital that has some healthcare system, the critical system. And they wanted to have that totally independent performance-wise on their office applications.
Oh, interesting.
So I suggested a vSAN at their location just for this application. So it will just be a
contained in
contained.
I see.
Bounded natures.
Robo installation with 2 hosts, and just for this database. That's mission critical for this hospital.
And that makes a lot of sense. And to be honest, we've seen not exactly the same scenario, but you can guarantee that this chunk of compute and storage will get this level of performance, because it's not sharing a fiber channel array with this batch operation.
Unknown things, right?
And especially as I think a lot of the storage vendors have a lot of their arrays are effectively all shared for all intents and purposes. So, but they've got it's massive caching and so on and so forth. But you saturate it with like a massive Cassandra cluster or a batch operation, and then suddenly your business critical service is being impacted.
You can pull it.
Whereas you can bound it and make it a completely separate operational domain.
Yeah. And in this case, they had to have it on site because it was operational through the operations in the hospital rooms.
Yes.
So it was not a question of having it in our shared infrastructure, because of if a network link would go down or the internet, it would be no good for the
that wouldn't be
for the patients.
Right.
So installing a vSAN in a robo installation at a mission critical site.
Yes.
With a application like this, it's a very good use case.
Yeah. It's very interesting to take applications and start thinking of kind of building infrastructure from an application-centric view, right?
Yeah, you have to design
in.
for the need of the application and the business needs,
right.
And the risks that you have to take care of.
I mean, people have always tried to do that. The problem, I think, has been that storage systems traditionally, right, are big, complex, and big chunks when you get them in, right? Whereas, this kind of server-level modular build-out, right, gives you just a lot more flexibility to go change on demand, if you like.
Yeah. You have to have an answer to the question, why are we putting this hardware into the hardware electric socket?
Yeah.
And why are we renting space for this hardware? If you can't answer the question, why are we doing this?
Yes.
Then you maybe should be doing something else.
Should be doing it. Exactly, yeah.
Did you have a thought on prioritizing what was the biggest impact for you?
Well, clearly management was really easier with the vSAN cluster. It's true that you have one point management tool. You can manage from compute to storage to everything.
Right.
And that's much more easier. And I was thinking about the scale out possibilities.
Yes.
It was great for us because you said flash is expensive, okay, but the good thing is that you can buy just the flash you need right now, and you can leave space for after. And we know that the flash cost will go down, so it's very easy to expand the vSAN cluster on the storage level, and it's more easier to do this in vSAN than any other storage clusters.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. The complexity is not there anymore. You don't have to worry about, do I have enough fiber channel ports? Is the switcher good enough? How many trays can I add to whatever storage array it is, and so forth. It's just horizontally expandable, more or less, indefinitely.
Yeah. I did think of one other question before I go to the audience. So, which is, there's a lot of talk about the cloud, right, and how we're taking vSAN, putting it in AWS, for example. It's available in IBM, right, and we're doing a lot with public cloud providers as well. How relevant is that, and how are you thinking about that, and how the cloud interacts with your business? Maybe we'll start with you.
Well, we are French people, and French is the public sector, and they are very conservative, so they want to keep that data private.
Yes.
So cloud is not a question really right now for us.
Right.
So nothing much.
So for you, it's like just interested to watch, but
it's just like geeky technologies, interesting, but that's all.
Yeah. In my case, as a service provider, and to my customers' view, I'm the cloud.
You are the cloud. Yes, right.
So it's just cloud located in Iceland.
Yes.
And the reason for maybe in some cases, like Amazon has a data center with a 250 millisecond latency because of distance.
Yeah.
So some applications are not going to go over that latency. It's the same reason in Europe we have maybe 120 milliseconds.
Yeah.
So if you need low latency between your applications, then those applications has to be local to Iceland.
Yeah.
And from end to end in Iceland we have like 15 milliseconds. So some companies in the other part of Iceland, they want to have their data local there. So 10 milliseconds is too much in some cases.
Right.
So for that reasons, I just tell my customers, move to the cloud. I have that.
And very well. That's interesting, right? Because the performance trade-offs, right? I mean, it allows you to actually have a competitive differentiation, right, relative to public cloud offerings, right, from that standpoint.
Yeah, so, some workloads don't mind millisecond latency, like email or something like that. You can run Office 365 without having, you are not measuring the milliseconds when you're receiving emails. But databases for your critical applications, they can't run over the link. So, so for us, we just tell our customers, the cloud is a good thing, and we are a part of it, and you're welcome.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, any thoughts on the cloud, or you?
Well, for Sky, it's a very complex answer. I mean, especially the OTT space, the space I'm more exposed to at Sky, is a very competitive environment. And a number of those competitors are, for example, Amazon.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
So that makes. But the reality is, it's an interconnected world. Everyone's competing against everyone else. So for us, we're trying to move our guys who deliver the services away from thinking about, I need vSAN, or I need vSphere, or I need OpenStack, or I need this cloud service, to rather I have a workload that has a performance profile, and I have latency requirements and so on and so forth. Where is it best served? And I think the cloud is a key part of that puzzle. And I think for us, the VMware in AWS is an interesting part of that solution.
Well, one of the things we're seeing is that the ability to go and have a software-defined infrastructure stack that runs wherever you think about it, that just gives you more choice.
Well, that's exactly it. And I mean, we're trying to, if you're looking to layer on, not so much with vSAN, but in NSX, you're trying to get people delivering their applications and the infrastructure components that make up the application as code, or push all that into code. Then, obviously, you don't necessarily want to tie yourself too much to one service, but on the other hand, if you're doing it this way with NSX, you can do it on-prem. If you do it this way on NSX, you do it off-prem.
This is tricky. They warned me that, in Europe, getting people to ask questions is not as easy as in Las Vegas. So we're going to test this out and see if it works. Do we have any questions from the audience? Anybody have some questions that they'd like to ask? We have a microphone. Yeah? Anybody have a burning question there? This is what they told me would happen, by the way. So I have more questions. So so we're not going to. But if you have a question, please just stand up. There you go. There's a question. Please.
Yes, I've got a question for Genael. I'd like to have your point of view of the different issues or difficulties you've encountered to implement your stretch cluster.
Different issues. We didn't have any particular major issues. The good point for us is that we have a really, really good network, and with very, very low latencies between our different sites. So I think the key point is your network, clearly, for your stretch cluster. So you have to have a network which is really reliable. No lows, low latencies, high
bandwidth.
High bandwidth. So no major issues for us. The thing is that if you check on the web, there are a lot of literature around vSAN. Maybe 2 books were written by 2 people from VMware, and they are really full of advices which are really good to follow. I can guarantee. And design is really the key. So if you can have maybe your design validated by VMware, I think it's a good thing, because we have made some choices at the beginning. We had to remodel things differently. So I can't tell you about any issues because we didn't have any. So, but the thing is really check your design and check your network, right?
Great. Any of you, are you using stretch clusters or?
No, that doesn't align with theirs.
Yeah.
No, but it's true regarding the network. If you're going to implement a vSAN solution and you have a crappy 1 gigabit switch, it's not going to work out very well.
Exactly.
So you have to have a good network backbone to make this solution work.
Now, stretch clusters came with 6.5, right? There's the ability then to go and have effectively RAID 5 or RAID 6 locally on-prem, and then have RAID 1 across sites. And so the idea was, with a low latency connection, now I could sustain local data center issues as well as be able to have site recovery. right? So this is the innovation of stretch clusters. One other question that came up earlier was about the management. In the past, storage systems were, kind of battle-tested big iron, right, that was sent, all configured together and put together. vSAN is the mixture of hardware plus software. There's appliances certainly like VxRail, but there tend to be like more from an integration standpoint. How did you find the management overall, like managing this from a vCenter versus managing storage independently? Are there any things that stood out in your mind?
Yeah, for me, as I run the storage as well, so I'm familiar with the RAID groups and LUNs and all those things. So setting up the vSAN installation in the first place was just, those are the disks I'm going to use, and it was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
It was
I kind of joke that the less you know about storage, the easier it is to describe vSAN.
But for me at least, it was not I didn't have to transition from a storage guy to a VMware guy to do it. It was just plain and simple.
Yes.
So it was really easy, but I see it can be if you work in a large company with a silo management of people. The storage admins don't talk to the VM admins. All of a sudden, the VM admins are taking their share of the pie. So they have to fight, and so I've heard stories like that. Just tell the storage admins to learn VMware, and then they're set.
Right.
So a lot of the skill sets of storage actually do align quite well to hypervisors as well. To be honest, they're looking at a broader population rather than necessarily little pieces.
Yeah.
So that's one thing we've said to storage team is that they, people who are interested in this should look to effectively cross-train across both sides.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it is from a career standpoint, right? It looks like, as things do get integrated over time, right? And so the ability to go and integrate storage plus compute today, right? And, potentially with like cloud options going forward. I mean, it's a really interesting way to think about how skill sets evolve over time, I think.
Very much so. And I think, look, the reality is there's a number of different directions that are going on in the industry at the moment. And it's very clear what skill sets are going to remain valuable and what aren't.
Yes.
And I think sort of your commodity block storage guy, that doesn't sound like to me like it's got a future.
Some people have asked me things like, where wouldn't I use HCI? Like, where, if it's a good fit in some places, are there places where it's not? And, I was describing that like a file, like a large file-centric space where you didn't have much compute, right? Could sit by himself. But that for anything that looked like it was transactional IT or even, specific applications, right, that this offers a new offering. Are you keeping your SANs and NAS systems? What are you doing with older systems that you have?
So I mean, obviously vSAN is part of the enterprise ecosystem. So there's going to be a lot of legacy fiber channel attached storage around for some time to come.
Sure.
I think the direction of travel is though there'll probably be some NAS for a while, and then a lot of it's transitioning to object.
Oh yeah, right.
So we need, at current we've got obviously a non-vSAN solution for object, and for NAS. I expect the direction of that to slowly converge over time as well.
Yeah. How about you, Ganel? Yeah, what do you think?
Let's say we have other storage also, because when you think about it, we have researchers that have like maybe thousands of terabytes of data, which come from I don't know where.
Researchers, yes.
They're just putting the data and then don't touch it. And it's pretty too bad to give flash for this.
Right.
So it's expensive for nothing. So yeah, we keep traditional storage.
For a cold
data.
Yeah. Right.
That's the main reason we keep them.
I see.
But then vSAN is coming with storage nodes only, so you can fill those with large disks and
Well, it's going to be interesting to watch the mix, right? This is one of the things where HCI, as you've had this kind of predetermined like mix of compute and storage, there are new technologies where you can start like composable infrastructure, for example, or storage-rich nodes. right? Or kind of compute-heavy nodes, new like high core count CPUs coming, right? I mean, we're going to have I think, an explosion of server infrastructure, or server building blocks. They give you a lot of actually flexibility in how you size a system.
Yeah. You always have some connections because it's integrated in the server.
Yes.
There's a lot of difference in compute power with the lowest power in Intel CPUs versus the highest power one.
It's true, right?
If you need a lot of compute, then you buy more powerful CPUs. If you need a lot of storage, then you buy larger drives.
Yes.
And you can mix and match that between clusters. And
yeah.
So you can adjust it just as a traditional SAN has a compute nodes.
Right.
You usually have 2 compute nodes. Each storage processor is just an Intel processor with memory and network.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's pretty much the same in the insides.
In the insides, yeah.
Maybe the only warning I would say about that is we have stretch clusters, so we have to keep in mind that we have to raise both sides in parallel.
Right, as you move.
We have to keep things even.
Right.
And I think for us, where we go, obviously, we're trying to steer away as much as possible from having a plethora of building blocks.
Yeah.
Going, well, actually, sure. If I have a bunch of high CPU, with all flash in it, but I'm not going to end up using all the CPU on these sides. Maybe that's okay, as long as, again, over the overall estate, I'm getting the right efficiency numbers.
Right. Yeah. Any other questions from the audience as I look around? Yes. Any hands? I'm giving you time, so. All right. Well, maybe what we'll do is we'll wrap up with just some few last thoughts that you have, right? It's interesting to hear how different either applications or what were the driving factors for vSAN. Any thoughts about things you'd like to see in the future?
Question actually, yeah. Well, like I said, I think we've got a lot of other storage infrastructure on the object storage and the like. So logically, if I could serve that from the same infrastructure, that's attractive to me. Yes, certainly from our side.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's always good to want more and faster and cheaper. So in whatever platform, but I think vSAN is evolving and the features are getting more rich feature set by each version, so it's on a good track.
Well, you mentioned the management, for example, and so the most recent versions of like vRealize operations, right, now have vSAN visualization tools, right, that are, we're really looking to go and make sure that management value becomes, even more obvious and easy to manage. So whether it's capacity planning or performance planning, and
some of that's been a big win for us. So we're actually now able to expose through to the end users, the customers, the OTT DevOps,
right?
A much richer set of information about the state of their storage than they would have previously.
Yes.
Because again, what we try and do is take a two-pronged approach. We use VROps and tools like it to give them the dashboards they need from our side, from the infrastructure side. Yeah. But then they'll also be able to take the rich API that's behind all that.
Oh, great.
And pull it into Prometheus or whatever other set they need.
Right.
So, and that looks like it's a really, really good approach.
Yeah, it's great. Any last things you'd like to?
It's true that we have to be able to predict things the more we can. Because I had earlier said we are not using cloud services, and it's true, but we are a cloud provider, as you said, to our internal users.
Yes.
And so we would like to make even more automation, extra. And so we'd need reporting. This is the most important thing. We need reporting, capacity planning, extra. This is the thing that we tend to develop for our solution.
Terrific.
Yeah, that's a good option with VROps, having a single pane of glass for capacity planning and monitoring.
Sure.
If you have some traditional storage and some traditional fiber switches, and then vSphere on top of that, and you don't have any platform to monitor all those devices, but having it all in vSphere and VROps, it's
actually integrated from that standpoint. Yeah. Have any of you deployed NSX, by the way, at this point? Yeah? Okay, and so, any thoughts on, now you're starting to get to the full software-defined data center, right?
So I think for us, NSX and vSAN, like vSAN's more of a southbound piece, so we're simplifying the infrastructure stack.
Yes.
We're making it faster, better, cheaper, stronger, sort of thing.
Yeah.
NSX is as an enabler. So what we're trying to do is allow people, and with the zero trust type approach, you're basically saying rather than having developers and DevOps think about, I need to think about chunks of storage or IP segments and so on and so forth.
Right.
They can just say, I have a service that needs this and that needs to connect to Y,
right.
and off you go, and build that into an infrastructure as code pipeline.
I mean, it's fascinating to me how suddenly the VM, right, becomes the kind of the lowest common denominator, the management like construct point, right, where now I can start putting security policies.
Exactly,
right?
Policies, and then and that so it just says I'm not a web VM. I'm a VM that needs to connect to these things, these ports. I mean, that's especially important as you move into container land, because obviously, if you're using VMs for containers, my VM might have a bunch of microservices and containers on top of it.
Precisely.
So, especially with what they're doing with driving NSX into those frameworks, allows us to that richer set of information for each, and the granular object has the information about what it's supposed to do, not away in some firewall rule set that no one looks at once I've done it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, I'd like to thank you all for just some really insightful comments. If you do have questions and want to come up, the panel members will be here after we close this out. And so, once again, thank you very much for this. Yeah. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, really good.
You did great.
Yeah.